So today I want to talk to you about how do I not feel overwhelmed during really challenging or complicated times. I know that all of us have gone through those times where we wake up in the morning and we find it difficult to even get out of bed. We want to pull the sheets over our head and just wish that we could lay here all day and not deal with what we have going on in our daily lives. Sometimes the things that keep us in the bed with those sheets over our heads are real issues, things that we can't change, things that we wish we could change, but they just won't go away. And then there's other things that have us in the same situation, but those things aren't real. They're really just perceived things, or they're things that cause fear in our lives, or they think there's things that maybe we're making a bigger deal out of them than what they really are. So the first thing that we should do when we want to not feel overwhelmed by challenges is to get crystal clear on what the challenge actually is. See, some of us feel that feeling of anxiety or that feeling of fear, but we really can't put it into words what the issue really is. You see, sometimes we're just focused on potential negative outcomes instead of what really is going on in our lives or what we really have the opportunity to create in our lives. So that's why it's important to get crystal clear on what the challenge or the issue really is. Because sometimes it's not necessarily the challenge that you're dealing with, but what you're making the situation mean. Okay. So the next thing is whenever I'm dealing with something, I like to ask myself, what's really the worst thing that can happen here? Okay. So I'm facing something really big or something really challenging, something that I feel like I may not be able to change. But then I ask myself, okay, if things just go all the way wrong, okay, or this thing that has me in the bed, if I can't change it, if I can't fix it, then what's the worst thing that can happen? We like to call it walking the plank. What if you did have to deal with this issue? What if you did have to deal with this challenge and it was the worst possible outcome? How would that look for you? We put a lot of energy in imagining all these different scenarios that could happen, all these different scenarios of all of these disastrous outcomes. All right. So let's go ahead and just deal with that. How about if it does happen, instead of living a thousand different scenarios and feeling the anxiety and the pain and the fear that comes along with each time you imagine all these different scenarios? Let's just think about the worst possible thing that could happen and ask ourselves, how would we deal with the worst possible scenario of what could happen? So ask yourself, if everything remains the same, how would I deal with this going forward? And ask yourself, if the worst possible scenario happened, how would I deal with that? Because oftentimes, even if the worst possible scenario did happen, it's still not worth worrying about. Okay. You'll find that it was this big, scary idea of what could happen that really caused you to take no action, where you could have focused that energy on, okay, if it does happen, I'm still going to accomplish whatever it is that I need to accomplish. I still have my mind set on the results and the outcomes that I do desire, even if I have this challenge or obstacle in the way. I'll acknowledge that this challenge is here, but I'm still going to look forward to the things that come after this challenge is over with. So now we looked at the worst possible thing that could happen. We must also ask ourselves, what's the best possible thing that could happen? What's the best possible outcome that could happen? All right. Because I believe that every situation you can apply the rule of polarity to it. All right. So if there's a negative side to it, there's also a positive side to it. If there's some good that can come out of it, there's some bad that can come out of it. But we've already been imagining the bad that can come out of it. So let's imagine what good could come out of this situation moving forward. So ask yourself, what's the best possible thing that could happen from this challenge or overwhelming time? Next, I have to ask myself a very important question, and I believe that you should too, because I believe this is the most important question in any challenging time. What will you make it mean going forward? You see, because you do have a choice in what you're going to make this situation mean going forward. Will you continue to allow your fear and your anxiety to cause you to do nothing, thinking about potentially negative outcomes? Or will you decide to take action? You also need to decide who are you going to be during this challenge, right? So you know who you were going into this challenge. You also know when things are in a better place, who you have the potential to be, but you have to ask yourself, who am I going to be during this challenge? Am I still going to be a powerful person? Am I still going to be a strong person? Am I still going to be optimistic? Or am I going to let this situation cause me to lose my confidence, to lose my focus? While you decide what you want to make it mean for you going forward, and you also have to ask yourself, what will I do starting today? Yes, we want to break the overwhelm, we want to break the anxiety, and we want to begin to focus on what it is that we can do today. You see, oftentimes we say, okay, what can I do tomorrow, or what will I do tomorrow, or I'll decide to even think about it or come up with a plan tomorrow. But today, you must decide what it is that you're going to do and start today. You can use this process for whatever it is that you find to be a challenge in your life. Okay. Let's just say if this was a weight loss scenario or a health scenario, right? Then you're going to ask yourself, what can I do today? Right? See, a lot of people say, tomorrow I'll start exercising or tomorrow, I'll go on a diet. And that's great, except for if really you're procrastinating. Really, you're letting that anxiety and overwhelm live in you and in your mind rent free for another day. And the bigger issue is for most people that tomorrow never gets here. And if you do decide to make some steps tomorrow, it's usually not sustainable. Okay. So rather than doing that, I would say, okay, today I'm going to decide to start with exercising. Now, starting to exercise could be anything as simple as doing 10 push ups or 30 sit ups or 25 jumping jacks before you go to bed. But you started your action today. Now, all you have to do is be consistent, improving on your goals, improving on the way that you see and respond to your complicated time every day by doing more, seeing yourself doing more, and being consistent with that. Okay. But the key is starting today. So, what will you start today? So, let's go back and answer the question. How do I not feel overwhelmed through really challenging times? First, get crystal clear on what the challenges or issues really are. But then we also have to look at our strengths or the best thing that could possibly happen. And finally, what powerful actions will you take advantage of? Will you continue to let overwhelm and anxiety take rule in your life and do nothing to take control? Or will you go into powerful actions to take control of the way that you see and respond to your complicated time? This is Tori Bryant, your transformation simplificator, helping you change the way that you see and respond to complicated times. Talk with you soon.